Grab someone by the hand quickly. Just grab someone's hand. Now, while you're holding their hand, I want you to just look at them. Try to look at them. If you're holding two hands, look at both of them quickly. Look at them. Okay. I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this very clearly. The person you just looked at, their singular goal when it comes to human behavior is to unconsciously eat you. Now, guys, stay with me. You guys can let go of hands. You can let go of the hand now. You can let go. Now, I don't have much time. I'm going to lock in quickly. I don't have much time, but I'm going to lock in quickly about why it is your colleagues want to eat you. Now, part of my goal is to make you more tasty. Part of my explicit goal is to talk to you about the neuroscience of why the brain translates your values into nutrition. Now, as we go through this conversation, we're going to explore the sheer power of your brain and how it will fundamentally impact how you're received, everything that we've just been exploring about unconscious biases. But my singular goal is to elevate the value of your taste, and I'm so grateful to be here. Are you guys enjoying this conference? Let's give all the previous speakers a big round of applause, please. Now, I just want to give away, I've got a new book out called Fueling Futures that just hit shelves in July. I want to give away a quick copy to someone who is going to join the fitness session tomorrow morning. I saw your hand first. Come on up, sir. Come up, sir. Now, Chantel, you got to make sure he's there. If he's not there, I want this book back. Not yet.
Timothy, sorry.
I'll sign it for you. Yeah.
Tim, can I just stop you quickly?
Yes.
So we'll all be there to see if he's there.
Okay, awesome.
Right.
Good stuff. So this conversation has been overwhelming to me for the past 6 or so years. I went back to school to study neuroscience, and I've been gripped with the very idea, what are the chemicals that drive our human behavior? So I'm going to pick up where Chantel sort of left off around the role of the body and the health and go to the brain, if you don't mind. I became fascinated by the brain growing up with a crazy family. I've got a family that's bizarre and really, I love my family, but they're really weird. Anybody else come from a crazy family? Anybody else? There's a few of you. Let me just tell you quickly how crazy my family is and the sheer power of stories as it relates to the brain. Before I do that, just quickly, how many of you are married? How many married people do we have here? Okay, I've got a test of hands. How many of you are happily married? Okay, awesome. Where are the single ladies? All the single ladies? All the single ladies, put your hands up. Oh, wow. Okay. But I just want to make sure I'm clear. I just need to make sure I'm clear. I saw a few hands where you look like you were not very sure. If you're all the way single, like it's dry, it's bad, like there's no DMs, oh, okay, over here. That's different levels of single, right? Let me go back to my family quickly. So I've got an uncle who is a mega church pastor. You know those, so I grew up in the States. I came to South Africa just about 10 years ago, and I traveled between the two quite a bit. And I love my family. When I go home, I got an uncle who's a mega church pastor. He's one of those, well, Oh, Lord. I've got one of those. Can I get amen? And then the uncle that came right after him, he injured his amygdala, the emotional region of the brain, when he was playing drums in a band. They were on a parade. He was on the top of a float. And he spent most of his life in prison after that injury. And then the uncle that comes after them is a federal judge. Same family, growing up on the same farm, the same parents. What happened? What happened in their brains that made them fundamentally different? Is there something that they weren't aware of that was impacting their journey as a leader and a potential leader? What happened? Let me give you a little bit of a hint as we really open up the core of this conversation. I'm going to give you their names, and then you tell me who is who. James, Joe, Billy Jack. Which one ended up in prison? Billy Jack, yes. Now, names have power. Names have extraordinary power. The book of James became a pastor. Joe has legal connotations. What's interesting to me is that they had no idea that these subtle influences were impacting them. Names influence our behavior at a very deep subliminal level. Let me give you an example. There was a study done on Hurricane Katrina, and they wanted to see who gave the most to help out the victims of Hurricane Katrina. They wanted to know who were the people. So they did a thorough analysis to look at who was giving the most. Katrina, the name Katrina starts with K. Turns out the people who gave the most had names that started with K as well. Why? Because we are drawn to our names. But let me go a little bit deeper. Why are we drawn to our names? We're drawn to our names because it feels familiar. It feels similar, which means that the anxiety regions of the brain calm down when we feel like we're in a safe place. What I loved about the previous presentation was that coming out of your unconscious biases requires an act of courage, because sameness is neurologically attractive. Sameness is attractive because if someone looks like you and they sound like you, you're drawn to it. In fact, it requires less energy if people look like you. Let me give you an example. I remember the day when my ex broke up with me. Anybody ever been broken up with? Anybody, oh, you've been through this before? We were at a wedding. This was a cold thing now that I think about it. We were at a wedding, and it was in Swaziland. And we were at this wedding, and the wedding was going really well. But I kept asking her to translate what was happening. After the 8th time, I think she was like, I have no more English for you. I've run out of... I can't trace it back to that moment, but I think that was the moment. Because in her mind, if I can just get somebody next to me who speaks the same language, I won't have to expend cognitive energy. Now follow this closely. The cognitive reserves needed in that moment made me less attractive. Now, if I can create a compelling enough story to inspire people to want to invest energy, then people will want to get out of sameness into a conversation with you. Now let's go into the power of stories. It's gripping just how much stories move us. I want to show you a photo of some friends, some people I've met over the years, and how similar we all are. Now, some of these photos are just photos where I just kind of slipped in, took a photo, and left. They have no idea who I am. If you were to ask you know when you just get lucky? I mean, the photo with Bill Clinton and Desmond Tutu, it was at an annual Nelson Mandela lecture. And I can't make this up. I was looking for the bathroom. And I just started opening doors. And I couldn't find the bathroom. And I opened the door and I found Desmond Tutu and Bill Clinton. And because the way I was dressed that day, I had on a power tie. They thought I was supposed to be in the room. So they grabbed me and they said, "You want to take a photo?" Guys, they have no idea who I am. Not a single clue. Now, but some of these people I've actually had a real conversation with, like Richard Branson. Richard Branson, as you know, has dyslexia. And one of the most extraordinary things about Richard Branson is that he told himself that his dyslexia is a strength. So he reframed the story in his brain. And what that does is it creates unconscious neural networks. It creates networks that promote what you want. So the question really is, in any human behavioral design, what you want to get out of your life starts with the story that you tell yourself. Because the same way James was impacting my uncle to think about the Bible without him realizing it, because every single day my uncle was called James. So it was triggering in him. By the way, my parents changed my name on day 2. This is a true story. I can't make this up. For 2 days of my life, my name was Kevin. Now, only recently did I study the name Kevin and realize why they changed it. Because Kevin literally means handsome. So they had to change it. It's a true story. I can't make this stuff up. But I want to share a quick story about the story of Oprah. There were about 7 of us in the room. I'm not that big of a fan of Oprah. I have deep respect for her. This was 2008. I have deep respect for her, but I'm not one of those fanatics about celebrities. So when they told her we would get a chance to meet her, I was in a situation where I was publishing my second book, Personovation. So I wanted to meet her because I wanted to talk more about my book. And I thought if there was only 7 of us, I would get a moment to have this conversation. So she was at the Sandton Convention Center. I had just moved to South Africa, and this was a big moment. They gave us a countdown. Her team said, "She's coming in 30 minutes. Get ready." Now, when it got down to about 15 minutes, there was tension in the room. You know when people are giving the countdown. When it got down to 3 minutes, one of the girls starts shaking and just vibrating. And then when Oprah comes in the room, she's like, "Hello," does the whole Oprah thing. The girl walks over, touches her on the shoulder, and faints. Why? Why did she faint? Because the story aligned to her higher values. Turns out that this girl had also been raped when she was a young child. And it was Oprah's story of having overcome that aligned to her higher values, that so much so that her unconscious mind, there was so much built up assimilation, just like the people attracted to Katrina, just like the people attracted to James. Stories create alignment and impact. How much do you know about the stories of the people you work with? If someone is a Hindu, do you know what they celebrate? If you're a Hindu, do you know what Christian and the cross really means? If you are from KZN and you are Zulu, do you know what Afrikaans women went through in concentration camps? If you are Afrikaans, do you know what was happening in the Eastern Cape with the Xhosa tribes? I'm always interested in just how little we know about each other's story and how that impacts how we feel about each other. If I've had any success at all in this country, it's because I've taken time to study the ecological forces, all of the inputs in every culture I come across. Because if I don't know what's moving people at their core level, I have no way to engage. If I don't know, how am I going to override my unconscious biases if I don't know what's the simple things that cause people's chemical explosion like dopamine, the bonding chemicals like oxytocin that cause us to connect? I would suggest over the next few weeks, you do a thorough analysis of your colleagues that you're struggling with and ask yourself, is it because I just don't know enough about them? And I'm going to unpack in the final 23 minutes that I have how to be able to go into the deeper unconscious to trigger the type of bonding chemicals to connect using the power of stories. I just want to go quickly. What are you guys afraid of? On this list, there's a lot of black people here. So I put here dogs and swimming. How many black people are afraid of dogs? Raise your hand. Okay, let me ask a different question. How many black people can swim? Raise your hand. Okay, 5%. By the way, I can't swim. I'm stereotypical black. How many of you are afraid of heights? Okay. Now, we're talking about fearless at this conference. Let's talk about how stories impact fearlessness and being fearful and fear and attacking this. How does story impact this? I have to tell you that growing up as a kid in North Carolina before we moved to New York, we had those dogs that you tie up in the back that we were all afraid of. And so I had this just horrifying relationship with dogs, even the little small ones. Is there anybody that, guys, we're family, right? Is there anybody that will admit you're afraid of the little small ones? Okay. Grown man, right? Afraid of a little small dog. I was the same. I see a little dog. I couldn't understand why white people were so excited about dogs. You know, when the dog is jumping on you and they're smiling at you, you're like, why is this dog jumping on me? So I couldn't understand this. And I had a partner who begged me for a dog for 2 years. And in my head, I'm like, no, first of all, I think we travel too much. But also, I don't want a dog running around the house. And one day I came home from a trip, and as I'm about to open the door, I hear a dog barking. My heart drops because I know what just happened. I open the door, and she's sitting there with this dog and her shady friend that inspired her to do this. You know those shady friends? Like, girl, get yourself a dog. He's always traveling. So I literally walk in the house, and there's a dog. And this dog is looking at me like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I don't like dogs. So I go to my room, and in my head, I'm furious, but I stay calm. The first weekend, we have this dog. The dog gets sick. She wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and said, we need to take this dog to the hospital or to the vet. I'm like, what? First of all, is there such thing as a 3 a.m.? What's going on? So anyway, we go and we get there, and then they tell us that the dog hadn't been dewormed. So she and her shady friend went and bought the dog that weren't dewormed. So now I'm upset, but I'm like, okay, it's fine. So we get back, and then she has to travel the next week. And now I'm stuck with this dog. And this dog is looking at me like, can't you see I'm sick? And I'm looking at the dog like, I genuinely have no idea what to do with you. I literally have no idea. Anyway, after like day 3, the dog is still starting to feel a little bit better, and we start going for runs, and we start going for long walks, and I start to find myself becoming connected with this dog. And you've seen the photo a little bit here. Let me just show you. So I became really close to this dog, to a point where I would allow this dog on my bed. Now, in my head, I've overcome this fear of dog by force. I want you to hear this. It was the neurological patterns that created the story and the picture. I want you to hear this very clearly. Please write down this term, patternicity. Pattern, I-C-I-T-Y. just like any pattern, like a clothing pattern, and then I-C-I-T-Y, patternicity. Patterns produce pictures, and these pictures form the stories. One of the ways to move forward and connect with people is you need new patterns. There is no way for me to overcome that fear until I created new pictures, which are undergirded by patterns. Now, this is a photo that was taken at a friend of mine's house. I had avoided this friend's house for 4 years. This is my friend Lydia. Lydia works at E&S law firm. She's a top power lawyer. I love my friend to death, but I would not go to her house because of these two dogs. How many of you would avoid going to her house with these two dogs? So I'm not alone, right? And one day, after having my little dog, my little Pomeranian, I decided I'm going to overcome my fear. And I go to her house, and I felt so at ease. To a point, we did a whole photo where these dogs were jumping on me, and I was completely relaxed. What happened was, when there was new patterns, there was different chemicals and networks built in my brain to allow the control of the fear. Nothing changes until the chemicals change. We can talk all night. We can come to this conference for 6 months straight, but until there are new patterns that produce new chemicals, nothing changes. Now let me get to some of the architecture of the brain let me simplify this so that we can get some real answers into the process of how to move forward when it comes to building your brand and telling new stories. Please write down for me System 1. System 1 is the fast side of the brain. System 1. This model is a model from Daniel Kahneman, who is a Nobel Prize behavioral psychologist, economist, who has framed this in an extraordinary way, in a very simple way to understand how the brain works. System 1 is the side of the brain where you don't have to spend any energy. I want you to grab the water bottle on your table and lift it up for me. Just grab the water bottle and lift it up. Now, I want you to imagine inside of this water bottle is your brain energy called cognitive load. The load of your cognition is inside of this bottle. Now, you can sit the bottle down. Where is your energy? Is it still full? Is it halfway? Is it close to empty? Just look at your bottle quickly. Where is it? It's full. Now, what's been happening throughout the day is that you've been presented with Shirley's talk, with all of these extraordinary talk, and you've been spending energy. So every single time you have to spend energy, it's like pouring out a little bit more water. What the brain wants to do is keep the bottle full. Say full. The brain wants to keep the bottle full because it doesn't know when you're going to need it. So it's constantly trying to preserve energy. This is why we don't get out of our same networks and we stay in sameness, because we're trying to preserve energy. You're trying to keep the top on. So in System 1, which is the fast side of the brain, it puts formulas in that side of the brain so that you don't have to take the top off. So if I say to you what's 5 plus 5, you don't have to take the top off. The answer pops up. If I say 10 plus 10, you keep the top on. If I say you plus your partner's name equals, if I say you plus your partner, the answer pops up. Loyalty, committed, marriage. Or some of you, it could be, it's complicated. But the point is, there's something that pops up in the formula. Now, if I say to you, let's go to System 2. System 2 is the slow side of the brain. Please write this down. I need to move quickly. I've got about 11 minutes. Quick, I need to move quickly. System 2 is the slow side of the brain. It's the side of the brain where you have to put in energy. No one wants to go to System 2. No one wants to pop the top and pour out any energy. No one. Unless there's a good enough reason. Please write this down. System 2. In System 2, we only go to System 2 if it aligns with my values. No one wants to go to System 2 unless it promotes my values and I am inspired deeply. If I say to you what's 17 times 33, if I don't give you a good enough reason, you're not going to figure it out. That's a System 2 exercise. If I say I'm going to give you a book, maybe you'll figure it out. If I say we're going to give away money, maybe you'll figure it out. Let me give you another example. Where are the single ladies again? All the way single? Okay, there's a lady right here in the front row. You're all the way single. She says, very. Could you please stand quickly? Just stand, please. Because I think most people are going to be confused. Just turn around and wave to everybody. Now, I want you to imagine you are in a relationship and the relationship is going really well. Okay? Just meditate and just imagine. Let's give them a name quickly. Let's just give them a name. What is the name of your ideal partner? Any name. Oh, okay. Okay. Michael. Okay, Michael, you and Michael have been in a relationship for 6 months. By the way, I'm not championing you need to be in a relationship. If you guys are happy and you're single, that's fine, okay? I'm not championing that. I'm just going to give an exercise about System 1 and System 2. That's my goal. You and Michael have been in a relationship for about 6 months. The relationship is going really well. You live 30 minutes apart from each other. You're going to take a week off from work. And you have said to yourself, I need some rest. Now, Michael phones you at 3 o'clock in the morning. And he knows you guys live 30 minutes apart. But he phones you at 3 o'clock in the morning and says, look, I've had some friends over. And we were watching sports, and they've left a lot of dirty dishes. Could you please come over and wash dishes? She says, you said, not a chance. You see, that's why you're single. I'm joking. Let's explore the brain reason. Let's explore the brain reason why she wouldn't go. There is a system reason why she didn't go. She does not have a formula that goes me plus 3 in the morning equals washing dishes. There is no formula. So what happens is, if there is no formula that the people around you can connect to that's linked to a story that moves my soul, I may break up with you. I may not sit with you at the table, at lunch, at work, because I don't see where there's a formula connection. I haven't been able to place you. Me plus you equals something interesting to me. I haven't been able to figure out a way to connect, so I'm going to stay in my sameness group. Now watch this closely. If I change the formula, maybe you'll jump up and come running at 3 o'clock in the morning. If Michael phones you and says that, I'm sorry to wake you up, but I've organized spa treatments in Paris, and I want to spoil you because you're so beautiful, and the flight leaves in 3 hours, can you come now? You see? All right, guys, you got to know how these slay queens work. I want to move to the close of this conversation this way. There is the logic dimension, and then there's the gut feel in the unconscious mind. The gut feel in the unconscious mind is highly emotive, and it leverages the limbic system. It leverages the motor and emotional system of the brain. If you guys want me to have a more technical conversation, at the end I'm going to put up my website, and you can go to my website, and I have conversations with neuroscientists from different parts of the world, and we explore the more technical aspect. I want to just break it down and simplify this for the purposes of this conversation. But ultimately, the lower regions of the brain is responsible for movement, emotion. And your gut is a very real dimension that has strategic capacity. It has the ability to help you navigate. So you're dealing with two dimensions of your brain capacity to help you navigate. And you can tell stories to move people to trigger their gut. Now, this is important. The moment I told her the story about France and spa treatments, it resonated at a gut level how it would feel. The moment I told the story in a formula, I want to take you to Paris for spa treatments, that story triggered a relationship that moved chemicals in her brain for her to feel it. It's like when you were preparing to come to Sun City. You felt what it was like to get away from your colleagues. You felt what it would be like to be here in this lovely environment next to the pool. You felt it. On the last day, you will also feel what it's like to go back. There's nothing worse than that last day when the holiday is over. Have you ever seen people's faces at the airport on the last day? It's painful because you're now connecting back with the stress. When you're going, you're connecting away. The story is changing. And when that story shifts, it impacts you neurologically. This is critical. But I just want to show you just how powerful your gut is. How many of you think you're a good kisser? Raise your hand. Okay. I can see a few here. Okay. Now, let me tell you why I'm bringing that up. The married people like, that's how I got here. Your lips have the thinnest layer of skin on the body. Your lips literally have, I'm talking science. It's the thinnest layer of skin on the body. When you kiss someone for the first time, saliva passes through the lip and it connects with the unconscious mind, and you can detect the strength of that person's DNA through a simple kiss. Now what happens is you kiss the person and your gut tells you, stay away from this person, they got weak DNA. This person is junk. But then what happens? You continue on because they look right. My family's gonna like them. They'll look great if I bring them to the bride. And your logic gets in the way of the gut. Your gut has registered, stay away from this person. We can detect and smell whether or not there's chemistry with people. We can detect through touch because we're wired under our epidermis. We are wired to be able to feel things that go beyond logic. Say beyond logic. Logic is a simple dimension, and I expect every single person in here who's highly intelligent to pursue the highest order of logic, to pursue the highest order of cognitive capacity, to be highly strategic. But then if you go to that extent and then your gut tells you something is not right about this person, you got to trust it. One of the things that is extraordinary about our ability to navigate complexity is that sometimes information passes so fast that your conscious mind doesn't pick it up, but your gut does. Malcolm Gladwell wrote this extraordinary book called Blink. In the blink of a moment, you may not have seen what happens, but the unconscious mind has picked it up. So, ladies in particular, you have up to 30% more capacity to pick up what's happening in your gut than men. This is an extraordinary leadership trait that you should own as a woman. Why? Because whether you call it your creator, God, whatever you call it, you've been wired with this so that you don't allow junk inside of you. Your creator is giving you this capacity so that you can ensure that the next generation is strong and that you're able to make decisions that have higher order discipline. I want to give you 5 brain boosting tips quickly, and then I'm going to sit down. Because all of this requires that you engage with the highest capacity of your brain. The first thing is drink pH level 7, 8 or neutral water. Write these 5 things down quickly. Now, water has an unbelievable impact on you, from hydrating the brain to giving you the ability to be able to make quicker connections so things flow on the tip of your tongue. For some of you, you struggle. There's always something on the tip of your tongue. It won't come out. That's because your brain is not hydrated enough. This is critical. It has so many brain boosting capacities. The brain, it actually boosts what we call alpha waves. Alpha waves help the brain regions connect faster. It helps you become more creative. This is raw science, guys. It even has a personal benefit to you. For some of you, if you struggle having orgasms, if you drink more still water, it boosts your capacity for orgasms. Now, if you see somebody who looks stressed, just pass them the water. No, I can see it in your eyes. You can see when somebody's stressed out, guys. We can see it. Just pass them the water. Don't judge them. It's stressful out here. Number two. So that's number 1. You want to boost alpha waves by drinking more water. Still water, not sparkling water. Sparkling water has more acid. It's more acidic. So it doesn't have that same brain boosting capacity. It does hydrate, but not at the same level. I can see people over here drinking plenty of water. Yes, please. Number 2, connect with nature. There's a study called nature bathing or forest bathing. If you literally spend up to 3 straight days in nature, your cancer-fighting T cells grow by up to 50%. Why? Because nature delights the cells. Nature literally delights the cells. If you know someone in the hospital, try to make sure they have a view that faces nature. They will heal up to 25% faster because nature is signaling to the cells health. Number 3, me time. I know you have kids and you're stressed out, but you've got to invest back in yourself. What happens in the brain is that the brain goes through this called hyperloop mode. When you're trying to find answers and you're in a very strategic space in your life, your brain starts spinning in the prefrontal cortex. It starts spinning out of control. And when you stop, and you literally stop thinking about something, the answers often come because they're in your unconscious mind already. How many of you have experienced that? You stop thinking about something, the answer comes. Exactly. It's because you moved yourself from the hyperloop mode and took time out for yourself. Number 4. This is critical, guys. For those of you who go to sleep at night staring at your phone or watching TV, you're waking up with up to 5 to 10% less of your own IQ. Just look at the person next to you. If they look like they have less IQ than yesterday, they were probably on their phone the whole night. Now, this is important because what happens is the unconscious mind thinks it's daytime. And you only go into healing sleep much later. So, what you want to do is up to 1 hour before you sleep. Let's try this for tomorrow morning. Up to 1 hour before you sleep. I want you to go into that part of sleep that cleanses the toxins. Healthy sleep is the type of sleep where the toxicity on your neurons, the information cells, is cleansed. That's what good sleep is. And then finally, I want you to do a relationship audit. There's a term in science called, there's a stress chemical in the brain that if it's dispersed to too much at such a high level, you will be impacted in what we call cortisol contagion. If somebody is highly stressed out around you, you will become more stressed. Now, you may know this, but let me give you the science. So cortisol contagion is the stress chemicals leaps from their body onto you and compromises your immune system. So people around you, friends and colleagues who are highly stressed out can be breaking down your immune system even if they're not targeting you. Wellness is not just about making sure people look good. I don't care about, it helps, but the bottom line is it's not about just looking a particular way. It's about mental fitness. It's about being in a position where you can manage stress better. Your immune system can respond to stress better. Now, as I wrap up, I told you I was going to help you taste better. In 2003, a guy named Armin Muiz decided he wanted to eat someone who was more articulate and more courageous. He was a German guy. And he put out on a Google advert that I want to eat someone who has these attributes: more articulate, more educated. 200 people got back to him and said, I want to be eaten. True story. He narrowed it down to a guy named Bernard Brands. They met over a candlelight and they decided we want to go through with this. Armin Muiz takes out a knife, puts it in him, lays him down and starts cutting off parts of his arm, puts it into a frying pan with olive oil and garlic. I don't know how you like your meat, medium, well done. Then he got out some fine red wine and began to eat him. After he finished his arm, he cut up the rest of him, put it into saran wrap or plastic and put it into the freezer next to the pizza. Every week he got out a little bit more, the thigh. After 6 months, he felt more articulate and courageous. Now, guys, when we go to lunch, please don't eat each other physically. Just follow me carefully. What was happening in the brain? For those of you who have ever seen a small baby, and you say, you look so cute, I wish I could just eat you up. Or even those of you who are really spiritual. I don't care what your spiritual background is, what you read. All spiritual texts talk about eating higher beings. Even the Bible says, unless you eat of my flesh and drink blood. There are implications if you don't. What happens is our behaviors accumulate into nutrition for the brain. So if you are in an environment where the values are discipline, integrity, being on time, and you run late, then what happens is those values, those negative values, trigger stress chemicals in the body, and they are digested as rotten. If you are in an environment where the people around you are working at a high level of excellence, they're on time and they're highly disciplined, they are serving your brain like a 5-course meal. They are serving you delectable meals, and your brain is receiving these meals with power, and it's healthy fuel for you. But if somebody is negative and they're late and they're chaotic, they are giving you food poisoning for the brain. They are literally making you sick. Now, when you go back to work, I want you to ask people, what can I expect at the table? What are you serving me? Because this is what I'm going to serve you. I am prepared to serve you delightful meals of excellence. And you do that through your daily patterns, which produce the story, which produces the power of your personal brand. All I really wanted to do is just come here and let you eat from a good talk. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I just thought you'd need some water.
Thank you very much.
Keep that. My glasses are full. I got my wife here and she's looking at me. Water. I don't do sparkling, but anyway. So thanks for advising today. I think that was very insightful. There's two people I'd like to take in my pocket. That's Marco, which was our first speaker. And then I would like to put you in my pocket just for my family life.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, quick, we got to rush. Just an announcement quickly. We will not be doing the plenary discussion with Dr. Richard Levin. There's been some issues and he won't make it. It doesn't mean we're winning time because we're already 50 odd minutes sort of behind. But are you enjoying yourselves? Because none of you have run for lunch. You have got great food here on stage. I mean, a 5-course meal has never tasted this good. So quick, just 2 or 3 questions quickly, and then we're going to call up Dr. Brian. So I think schools should have mental health classes that you can get credit for, where you learn what depression, anxiety, and other mental health illnesses are. That's the statement, which I think I just run that to you first. And then there's lots of statements, hardly any questions. Wow. How would knowing your colleagues' stories impact on productivity? Good question.
So when you know your colleagues really well and you understand their stories and their background, when you reduce the stress levels that are created by the fact that you don't feel familiar with them, what ends up happening is the positive chemicals such as vasopressin and oxytocin help the bonding effect, which increases trust, which increases the feeling that I can work with you without the stress. So ultimately, you end up flowing in conversation and you increase the capacity to move efficiently.
This is an interesting question from Potlakiso. Mr. Webster, don't you think that gut feeling may create biasness?
So, as I said, part of what is required is that you go through the logic exercise, pursue all the facts, and then you marry that with the gut. So, yes, there are times when a lot of stereotypes are actually true, but what you really want to do is to pursue at a very high level, what is the value of this human being, and how can we collaborate, and then trust your gut.
That's good. And then, here's one here from Don Kochetsitse. What is nature in your context?
Nature. If I can walk in a garden, if I can be outside in the sun, anything that's natural, if I can lie in a bath with water that's natural, these are all natural elements that can boost the brain.
So build gardens in our office spaces.
Absolutely.
How do you get to know the stories of your colleagues when they are not willing to share?
Yeah, well, fortunately, there's Google. You can find out a little bit more about people's backgrounds. LinkedIn. People are fairly transparent, or find out people around them who know them better and say, hey, I'd like to get to know your friend a little bit better. We're working together on a project. I'd like to know a little bit more.
Matsi says, these brain-boosting tips make so much sense. What an amazing presentation, Timothy. Timothy, thank you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you
once again.